armed forces launched Operation Sindoor past midnight, hitting terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, from where terrorist attacks against India have been planned and directed. In a press release, the armed forces said that altogether 9 sites have been targeted. The Ministry of Defence in a statement said that the actions have been focused, measured and non-escalatory in nature. The ministry informed that no Pakistani military facilities have been targeted. It added, India has demonstrated considerable restraint in the selection of targets and the method of execution as well. Further, the ministry said that these steps come in the wake of the barbaric Pahalgam terrorist attack in which 25 Indians and 1 Nepali citizen were murdered. We are living up to the commitment that those responsible for this attack will be held accountable, the government of India said. Prime Minister Narendra Modi called on President Draupadi Murmu at Rashtrapati Bhavan and briefed her about Operation Sindoor. Union Home Minister Amrit Shah on Wednesday called an urgent meeting of Chief Ministers, Chief Secretaries and DGPs of states having borders with Pakistan and Nepal. The meeting has been called in the wake of the strikes carried out by the Indian Armed Forces on terror targets in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir as a retaliatory action against the Pahalgam terror attack. Speaking on the attack in Pahalgam on the 22nd of April, he said that Pakistani and Pakistan-trained terrorists associated with Lashkar-e-Taiba launched a barbaric attack on tourists.
आज सुबह जैसा कि आपको ज्ञात होगा, भारत ने इस तरह के सीमा पार हमलों का जवाब देने और उन्हें रोकने तथा उनका प्रतिरोध करने के अपने अधिकार का प्रयोग किया है। ये कार्यवाही नपीतुली, नॉन एस्केलेटरी, अनुपातिक और जिम्मेदारीपूर्ण है। ये आतंकवाद की इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर को समाप्त करने और भारत में भेजे जाने वाले संभावित आतंकवादियों को अक्षम बनाने पर केंद्रित है। आपको यह भी स्मरण होगा कि 25 अप्रैल 2025 को संयुक्त राष्ट्र सुरक्षा परिषद ने पहलगाम आतंकवादी हमले पर एक प्रेस वक्तव्य जारी किया था, जिसमें आतंकवाद के इस निंदनीय कार्य के अपराधियों, आयोजकों, फाइनेंसरों और प्रायोजकों को जवाबदेह ठहराने और उन्हें न्याय के दायरे में लाने की आवश्यकता पर जोर दिया गया था। भारत की आज की इस कार्यवाही को इसी संदर्भ में देखा जाना चाहिए।
Further, Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri said that it was deemed essential that the perpetrators and planners of the 22nd April attack be brought to justice.
It was deemed essential that the perpetrators and planners of the 22nd April attack be brought to justice. Despite a fortnight having passed since the attacks, there has been no demonstrable step from Pakistan to take action against the terrorist infrastructure on its territory or on territory under its control. Instead, all it has indulged in are denials and allegations. Our intelligence monitoring of Pakistan-based terrorist modules indicated that further attacks against India were impending. There was thus a compulsion both to deter and to preempt.
Further, the Foreign Secretary noted that India had given inputs about the TRF in the half-yearly report to the monitoring team of the United Nations 1267 Sanctions Committee in May and November 2024, bringing out its role as a cover for Pakistan-based terrorist groups.
It is notable that India had given inputs about the TRF in the half-yearly report to the monitoring team of the UN's 1267 Sanctions Committee in May and November 2024, bringing out its role as a cover for Pakistan-based terrorist groups. Earlier too, in December 2023, India had informed the monitoring team about Lashkar and Jaish-e-Mohammed operating through small terror groups such as the TRF, Pakistan's pressure to remove references to TRF in the April 25 UN Security Council press statement is notable in this regard.
Speaking on India's action on terrorist camps in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, Wing Commander Vyomika Singh said the Operation Sindoor was launched to deliver justice to the victims of the Pahalgam terror attack and their families. The Wing Commander added that 9 terrorist camps were targeted and successfully destroyed.
9 terrorist camps were targeted and successfully destroyed. Over the last 3 decades, Pakistan has systematically built terror infrastructure. It is a complex web of recruitment and indoctrination centers, training areas for initial and refresher courses, and launch pads for handlers. These camps are located both in Pakistan as well as Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir areas. Some of the well-known training camps are located, as you can see on the screen. They are distributed from Savai Nala in the north, counting to approximately 21, ending at Bhagalpur to the south.
The Wing Commander asserted that Operation Sindoor was carried out with due diligence using niche technology weapons. Careful selection of warheads was also made.
Selection of these targets for Operation Sindoor was based on credible intelligence inputs and role of these facilities in perpetrating the terror activities. The locations were so selected to avoid damage to civilian infrastructures and loss of any civilian lives. This was done with due diligence. A niche technology weapons with careful selection of warheads was ensured so that there will be no collateral damage. The point of impact in each of the target was a specific building or a group of buildings. All the targets were neutralized with clinical efficiency, and the results reiterate the professionalism of the Indian Armed Forces in the planning and execution of their operations. No military establishments were targeted. India has demonstrated considerable restraint in its response. However, it must be said that the Indian Armed Forces are fully prepared to respond to Pakistani misadventures, if any, that will escalate the situation.
The Indian Army provided detailed insights into Operation Sindoor. Addressing the media, Colonel Sofia Qureshi detailed the 9 targeted terror camps in Pakistan-occupied J&K and Pakistan altogether. The camps included Savai Nala camp, which is 30 kilometers from the line of control. It is also a training center for Lashkar-e-Taiba.
सवाई नाला कैंप मुजफ्फराबाद जो कि पीओजेके के लाइन ऑफ कंट्रोल से 30 किलोमीटर दूर है। यह एक लश्कर-ए-तौयबा का ट्रेनिंग सेंटर था। 20 अक्टूबर 2024 सोनमर्ग, 24 अक्टूबर 24 गुलमर्ग, 22 अप्रैल 2025 पहलगाम, इन हमलों के आतंकियों ने यहीं से प्रशिक्षण लिया था।
Sayyidina Bilal camp in Muzaffarabad was a staging area of Jaish-e-Mohammed that also was targeted.
सैयदना बिलाल कैंप मुजफ्फराबाद, यह एक जैश-ए-मोहम्मद का स्टेजिंग एरिया है। यह हथियार, विस्फोटक और जंगल सर्वाइवल ट्रेनिंग का केंद्र भी था।
Gulpur camp in Kotli, which was also a base camp of Lashkar-e-Taiba, was targeted.
गुलपुर कैंप कोटली, यह एलओसी से 30 किलोमीटर दूर था। लश्कर-ए-तौयबा का बेस था जो रजौरी, पुंछ में सक्रिय था। 20 अप्रैल 2023 को पुंछ में और 9 जून 2024 को तीर्थ यात्रियों के बस हमले में यहीं से आतंकी को ट्रेन किया गया था।
Barnala camp in Bimber was used for weapon handling and jungle survival training that was targeted in Operation Sindoor.
बरनाला कैंप बिम्बर, ये एलओसी से 9 किलोमीटर दूर है। यहाँ पर हथियार हैंडलिंग, आईईडी व जंगल सर्वाइवल का प्रशिक्षण केंद्र था।
Abbas camp in Kotli was a training camp for Lashkar-e-Taiba's Fidain or terrorists that was targeted under Operation Sindoor.
अब्बास कैंप कोटली यह एलओसी से 13 किलोमीटर दूर है। लश्कर तौयबा का फिदाइन यहां तैयार होता था। इसकी कैपेसिटी 15 टेररिस्ट को ट्रेन करने की थी।
The Sarjal camp in Sialkot was a training camp for terrorists who were involved in the March 2025 J&K police attack. It was among those 9 places targeted under Operation Sindoor.
सर्जल कैंप सियालकोट यह अंतर्राष्ट्रीय सीमा से 6 किलोमीटर की दूरी पर है। मार्च 2025 में जम्मू एंड कश्मीर पुलिस के 4 जवानों की जो हत्या की गई थी, उन आतंकवादियों को इसी जगह पर ट्रेन किया गया था।
India under Operation Sindoor demolished the Mehmoona Joya camp in Sialkot. This was one of the biggest camps of the Hizbul Mujahideen, located 12 kilometers from the international border.
दूर था। हिजबुल मुजाहिदीन का बहुत बड़ा कैंप था। ये कठुआ जम्मू क्षेत्र में आतंक फैलाने का नियंत्रण केंद्र था। पठानकोट एयरफोर्स बेस पर किया गया हमला भी इसी कैंप से प्लान और डायरेक्ट किया गया था।
And in news just coming in, soon after the focus strikes on terrorists and terrorist infrastructure at 9 sites in Pakistan and Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir on the 7th of May 2025 as part of Operation Sindoor, India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval spoke with the NSAs of several countries, including US NSA and Secretary of State Marco Rubio, UK NSA Jonathan Powell, Saudi Arabia's NSA Musaid Al-Aiban, UAE's NSA His Highness Sheikh Tahnoon, Secretary General of the NSC or National Security Council of the UAE Ali Al-Shamsi, and NSA of Japan Masataka Ukano. Contact was also established with Russian NSA Sergei Shoigu, member of Political Bureau of CPC Central Committee and Minister of Foreign Affairs of PRC Wang Yi, that is of China, and diplomatic advisor to French President Emmanuel Bon. NSA briefed his counterparts on actions taken and methods of execution which were measured, non-escalatory and restrained. He emphasized that India had no intent to escalate but was well prepared to retaliate resolutely should Pakistan decide to escalate. NSA will be in touch with his counterparts in the days ahead. That is the breaking news coming in at this point in time. India's National Security Advisor has briefed NSAs of several countries on India's response to the Pahalgam terror attack. India, remember, has targeted 9 terrorist camps in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir as well as in Pakistan on the 7th of May. That is within 15 days of the April 22 attack by Pakistan-based terrorists and Pakistan-trained terrorists in Pahalgam in the Kashmir Valley, one of the worst terror attacks that India has ever seen. Also a terror attack in which several civilians were targeted, very similar to the scale of 26/11 in which 2 civilians were targeted by Pakistan-based terrorists. So National Security Advisor Ajit Doval has spoken with NSAs of various countries. Remember, some time back also Union Home Minister Amrit Shah had briefed the chief ministers of several Indian states that border Pakistan and Nepal on Operation Sindoor and for their preparedness. Now India making sure that the right message goes out to the international community on what led India to carry out Operation Sindoor and how it was precision based and how it was ensured that there was no collateral damage in Operation Sindoor. So India's National Security Advisor Ajit Doval has spoken with NSAs of several countries. Remember, since the April 22 Pahalgam terror attack, India has launched a diplomatic offensive against Pakistan. Also, India made sure that the right message goes out to the world that there should be zero tolerance towards terrorism. That was also a tweet that was put out by India's External Affairs Minister in the aftermath of Operation Sindoor, where he had tweeted that there should be zero tolerance towards terrorism. And a lot of countries from around the world have come out in India's support. They have said that the perpetrators should be brought to justice. Not just that, the United Nations Security Council has also come out with a public statement saying that the perpetrators of the Pahalgam terror attack should be brought to justice. And this was a point that was cited by Vikram Misri, India's Foreign Secretary, in the press briefing today, where he said that this response to the Pahalgam terror attack called Operation Sindoor has happened in the spirit of that statement by the United Nations Security Council. So India going ahead with its diplomatic offensive, telling the world what it had faced in the form of the Pahalgam terror attack, telling the world about Pakistan's antecedents, about how Pakistan has been supporting cross-border terrorism for the last 30 years, no less, against India, particularly in Jammu and Kashmir, exposing Pakistan time and again. This is not the first time that India has responded with resolute action. Remember, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's government responded after the Uri terror attack through surgical strikes in 2016. Then in 2019, India responded to the Pahalgam terror to the Pulwama terror attack, and that was done through aerial strikes in Balakot in Pakistan. And now Operation Sindoor has been launched against 9 terrorist targets in Pakistan as well as in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, where a lot of the terror infrastructure has been dismantled comprehensively, at least in 9 places. And that was made clear by India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri, as well as the 2 women armed forces officers who briefed the media and the world about how and why those 9 particular targets were chosen and how they were demolished, taking care of the fact that there is no collateral damage, that no civilians are targeted, the civilian infrastructure is not targeted, even military facilities have not been targeted, just the terrorists and the terror infrastructure, the terror training camps have been targeted. And joining us now are 2 experts. Ambassador Pinak Ranjan Chakravarti, former Secretary MEA, Atul Aneja, Foreign Affairs expert, are joining us, but also our 2 reporters are joining us. Dibendu is covering every aspect of the story since the morning. He joins us from the New Delhi newsroom. Also, I understand Amrit Pal Singh is joining us from Chandigarh. I'll go to you, Dibendu. What is the latest that you are picking up? We know that India's National Security Advisor has now briefed his counterparts from around the world on why India carried out and how India carried out Operation Sindoor.
Well, Munmun, we just got the news that NSA Ajit Doval did brief his counterparts from across different countries in the world, explaining as to India's stand as to why these specific targets were chosen. Of course, the army also did, in their press conference, also did mention why those targets were chosen. And as you had also been telling through the bulletin that, no civilians were targeted, nor were the military installations across Pakistan were targeted, but these were very precise calibrated attack on the terrorist hideouts and the terrorist camps that were training terrorists to wage a proxy war against India. So therefore, these were all calibrated, precise attack by the Indian armed forces on these terrorist camps in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, as well as in the Bahawalpur region, as well as the other parts of in Pakistan. But having said this, of course, this has come. And the Prime Minister Narendra Modi had held a cabinet meeting earlier in the day today, briefing his cabinet members and having a discussion with his cabinet members on the operations that was underway. Remember, the Prime Minister also met with the Defence Secretary, the Defence Minister, all the 3 service chiefs, with NSA Ajit Doval, with Foreign Secretary, with Foreign Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar. Over the last couple of days, in several series of these meetings, the details of the operation was chalked out. Operation Sindoor was chalked out, and therefore, on yesterday night or the early morning of the 7th, this attack was carried out. And also, since as per the democratic protocol, the Prime Minister had to brief the President of India on the actions and on the operations that was undertaken, and therefore the Prime Minister also met with the President of India at the Rashtrapati Bhavan here in New Delhi, and the Prime Minister did brief the President on the operation that was undertaken. And there is also expected to be an all-party meeting that has been called by the government, which will be held tomorrow, where the government will be briefing all the political parties that are represented in the Indian Parliament on the successful operation and how the operation was carried out. And also we could expect a press conference from the army maybe tomorrow morning on further details of the operations that are still coming in, and therefore we can expect that a press conference could be held by the Indian Army tomorrow as well. Munmun.
Right. We are also expecting a press conference from India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, but like you're telling us, shortly there would be more briefings over the course of the day and maybe tomorrow as well. Well, coming for perspective to you, Ambassador, now India has responded comprehensively to the Pahalgam terror attack. Would you call it a befitting response which was targeted and non-escalatory?
These were all sites where it has been monitored for a very long time that all the terrorist training camps are there. And of course, they are combined with mosques and madrasas and other social institutions, because that gives it a cover. And hence, but it's very clear that these sites have been used for a very long time to train terrorists. They have been tracked there. They have been, tracked from going back there. So I think this is, we have made it very clear that we are targeting the terrorist infrastructure that Pakistan has built over the years. And so this is our message, that we did not target anything else, and we targeted only the terrorist infrastructure, because that is our basically purpose to ensure that the terrorist infrastructure in Pakistan, which has been built by the Pakistani deep state and helped and nurtured, feels the heat. That of course they will probably rebuild it, but then they should know that it can be hit, and they will remain on our target. So that is the kind of deterrence I think this message sends.
Do you agree with that, Atul Aneja, that this has a lot of value when it comes to preemptiveness and also deterrence?
Exactly. So the message is one is on terrorism and nothing else. I think that's the message which went from the attacks and the write-ups and the briefings which have followed that. So our focus was counter-terror completely. Now comes whether this is enough of a deterrence. I think that's something which we need to ponder about, because we had Balakot and we still had recurrence. We got a few years of time. But I think it's important to reinforce this message, because the scale now has been bigger than what it was at the Balakot strikes or surgical strikes. We have hit at the targets which you had mentioned, including the fount of Jaish-e-Mohammed and Lashkar-e-Taiba. These are the basic sort of founts of terrorism, not only in Kashmir but all over India. So the messaging has gone loud and clear, but I think we need to reinforce it somewhere that, it's not a case of managing terror anymore, in my view. I think it's time that the terror sanctuaries are eradicated, and there's a difference. Managing means you accept it, some terror attack will happen on you and then you manage it for a few more years and come. But I think the message has to go deeper, to be honest. That this is excellent. What we did was precise, good.
Are you saying that there is a potential of upscaling?
Well, this is something which has to be done very responsibly. I would say ideally that would be the case, but then you have to make a lot of take in all the other factors which come into it. as you can see that on counter terror, we are going to have global support. But if one escalates or goes beyond it, we may not do this. So we'll have to keep that in mind. So ideally, I would say more needs to be done, but whether that is possible in the given scenario, we don't know. There's so many imponderables here. We have, for us, this is it. The NSA has spoken to his counterparts, and he has very much conveyed that we are not interested in escalation. But if the Pakistan side starts countering this with an attack on India, then escalation is also possible, and that opens its own possibilities, which I don't want to speculate
that
right
I think was made clear in the press briefing also, that if there is a misadventure from Pakistan, then there is a threat of escalation.
Absolutely. So, and India has factored that in, the possibility of escalation, and is prepared for an escalation, but does not want an escalation to take place. So the ball is now precisely in Pakistan's court. If Pakistan can somehow verifiably demonstrate that this is it, and all sanctuaries of terror are going to be closed from their side, that's a different situation as well.
That hasn't happened in 30 plus years.
It hasn't happened in 30 odd plus years. That's why my skepticism, whether we have done a fantastic job, I think, for what happened. It is just not the military strike, but military strike took place in a certain context. We had the Indus Waters Treaty being suspended, which had a deep psychological impact, not only on the Pakistani established, but I think the national morale went down, which created fertile ground for us to do what we did this morning. So it has been a 360-degree approach. We have opened out the diplomatic track all over the world, which has gone in our favor, including the United Nations and key countries like Russia, United States. And NSA has even talked to China today. The Chinese statement has not been bad, by the way. I just went over that as well. So it's so far so good. But the question then, Munmun, is again this: will this deter Pakistan permanently or not? I think that's still an open question. But we have definitely sent a message. Whether it is sufficient for deterrence, I don't think I can.
Also, then there is introspection for the international community to do. Should only India be thinking on those lines? Because ultimately, Pakistan is the mothership of terrorism, and anywhere terrorism happens, you can trace the roots back to Pakistan. We'll pick that up in a bit. But Dibyendu, coming to you, you were telling us about an all-party meeting that is likely to take place sometime later. So is the effort then to show that India stands united on the question of terrorism? We've seen the all-party meeting happen in J&K as well. We've seen one that happened at the central level as well. So how should another bid be seen?
Well, Munmun, of course, this is a time when this nation needs to stand united, and even in the previous all-party meeting, we saw that all the political parties did express their united front and have shown their united front when it comes to tackling terror, and all the parties have unequivocally said that they support the government when it comes to weeding out terrorism and when it comes to the national interest. Of course, even this time around, it is expected that in the all-party meeting, which is expected tomorrow morning at about 11 a.m., all the political parties who will be briefed about the Operation Sindoor by the Defence Minister, and also it is expected that the Home Minister Amit Shah could also be present in the meeting, and all the political parties have already been invited. Those who are represented in the Parliament, they have already been invited, and it is expected that tomorrow morning at about 11 a.m. The meeting could begin at the Parliament Annexee, where such meetings do generally take place. And this is an effort by the government to ensure that all the political parties, irrespective of their ideologies or irrespective of their stand in Parliament, stands united, and they are briefed as per the democratic process of the as well as the parliamentary process of India. All the political parties are briefed about the actions of the government, and this is of course what is being undertaken by the government. But having said this, Munmun, also that currently what we are hearing is that Home Minister Amit Shah is already chairing a meeting with all the chief ministers of the bordering states, as well as the DGPs of all the states of India, as well as the chief secretaries. This is very crucial because This is absolutely crucial because all the chief secretaries, chief ministers, and the DGPs need to be apprised of the action plan going forward from here. Also, the fact that the mock drill is taking place in many parts of the country. 244 districts across India did go through the mock drill, and some are also expected to take place later in the night or later in the evening today. Because also it is important because the heightened security vigil that needs to be taken, given that Pakistan did put out a statement saying that they could retaliate, and of course there is always a threat given the fact that you can't really predict what Pakistan can do. But India is fully prepared, and India stands united with all its political parties, keeping aside their ideologies, keeping aside their differences with the government. The country stands united is a message that the government is putting across, and all the political parties have agreed to that. Murmu.
Right, Dibyendu telling us that at 11 a.m. Tomorrow in Parliament Annex A, an all-party meeting has been called. We leave it at that, Dibyendu. Mondal, thank you for joining us from the New Delhi newsroom. And now let's go across to Amrit Pal Singh joining us from Chandigarh. Amrit Pal, we've heard in the press briefing about how Operation Sindoor was targeted, how no civilian infrastructure was targeted, there has been no collateral damage, no civilian casualties have been reported. So, from the military perspective, how should the world see Operation Sindoor?
From a military perspective, it's a brilliant operation, both from a strategic point of view and also from a tactical point of view. If you look at the operation strategically, they have not attacked, as you said, military targets, civilian infrastructure, or civilians, no collateral damage. So clearly, India has given a measured response against terror targets, striking terror targets, but carefully avoiding any military installation so that it does not go. It was basically a non-escalatory strike. The idea is, imagine if you target Markaz Subhan, which is in Bawalpur. At stone's throw away is 31 corps of the Pakistani army. If your missile struck that, imagine what escalatory ladder it could have gone on, and you are two nuclear neighbors. The world is breathing down your neck. So from a strategic point of view, it was a brilliant strategy. Pakistan, you've got Pakistan in a bind. They don't know what to do because they would be under pressure to respond, but how to respond? To attack Indian military targets. If that happens, then or civilian targets. If that happens, then the onus of starting the war lies on them. So clearly, from a strategic point, it's a brilliant move. From a tactical point of view, also look at it. Look at the geography you've covered. You go up north, you hit two camps in Muzaffarabad, you come down to Kotli, you come down to Bimbar, this is POJK. You come down to Punjab in Sialkot, you go down to Muridke near Lahore, go 100 kilometer inside and south of Multan in Bawalpur, you attack that. 25 minutes, you go in, you come out, 104, you start attacking. 1:30, the op is over. The Pakistanis are still waking up, rubbing their eyes, didn't know what hit them, and this was not a surprise. There was no surprise element. The Prime Minister, no less than the Prime Minister, had said, we will track you, we will hunt you down and pursue you to the ends of the earth and bring you to justice. So you had given clear signals. So from a tactical point of view, from a strategic point of view, brilliant operation, Munmun.
Okay, brilliant operation indeed. Stay with us, Amrit. Ambassador, coming to you. Pakistan has been duplicitous in its approach towards India all throughout. It supports terror proxies to the T, also admits to supporting them, but also issues empty denials at the same time, which of course have no takers. How does the international community see Pakistan?
Well, what happens in the international community is that they know what Pakistan is up to. Everybody knows that Pakistan is an epicenter of terrorism and is a state sponsor of terrorism. But what happens is that they don't want to take sides sometimes. And so they try to be even-handed, they try to say, please exercise restraint, etc. But what restraint can one exercise? Which country will exercise restraint when you are being hit, periodically by these terrorists who are nurtured, trained, hosted, fed, educated in Pakistan, and none other by the Pakistan Army and the ISI. So there is, we have to just ignore some of these international comments that are coming, because that's the nature of international politics. They will have to say something either to, give a little sort of support to Pakistan or give some support to India. So this is going to happen. We have to do what we have to do. And I think the international community has to understand that India will no longer tolerate these kind of terrorist strikes organized by Pakistan. Hence, Pakistan will have to bear the consequences. That, in my view, is the bottom line.
How is the international community, Atul and Ajar, bringing the same question to you, seeing Pakistan? We heard from Khwaja Asif. He tried to blame the United States for what he called quote-unquote dirty job, referring to what really happened in Afghanistan in the 1979 vis-a-vis Soviet Union. But then, of course, admitting that Pakistan has been funding, supporting terrorists in every which way. Then there is Bilawal Bhutto, who admits to Pakistan supporting terrorism. Then tying themselves in knot, there are all sorts of denials also coming out. There are admissions also coming in. The world community is watching. The world community is pained by the several terror attacks whose roots go back into Pakistan. Does it have any credibility? It was fighting so hard to not be grey listed by the FATF, to come out of the grey listing, and now Pakistan is where it is.
Yes, Munmun. I think there are two levels. The world knows that Pakistan has been an epicenter of terror ever since the time, if any proof was required, when Osama bin Laden was found inside Pakistan, very close to a military facility. It couldn't have happened without Pakistanis official support. And to have the world's biggest terrorist given sanctuary, that speaks for itself about Pakistan and terror. So I think the entire world knows about it. So there is no question of India trying to explain it case that Pakistan is an epicenter of terror. That is done. Then I come to the argument which was given by Ambassador Chakravarti. I think he has hit the nail on the head that while they know this, they still, since they're not directly involved, they still try to play both sides, a little bit with Pakistan, a little bit with India. There's a third element which the Pakistanis are sort of pumping into the equation, which is that if there is any action by India, we'll go nuclear. So that nuclear blackmail element is always been there from Pakistan side, and which some part of the world community bites into from a distance, right? So I agree with what Ambassador Chakravarti is saying, that we have to ignore the cacophony from the world community which is coming out now. They know what's happening. We just need to do what we have to do. How we do it, when, how much is going to be our calculation. But I don't see that coming as an overwhelming restraint on us to stop doing what we need to do. Question is when, how long. We have called off, in a sense, we have said that this whole operation which happened last night was to bring justice to the families of the victims. To that extent, we have made progress. The deterrence element which we just spoke about, that is something which needs to be enforced, but perhaps not now. Perhaps all I'm trying to say is that this is a long fight against terror, and I hope that this is enough for Pakistan to learn its lesson and stop here. But I think from an Indian perspective, we need to think of the long game, and perhaps in stages, maybe now, maybe a year later, something else. So, the fight against terror is not a simple fight. I think if you want to make a structural change in it, then it's a long game ahead.
So it's a long haul. You are saying think about it in phases.
In phases, and depending on what the international situation, your ground situation, self-preparedness, domestic, so many factors you got to take into account. And there is so much you can move at a certain time. But don't forget the bigger strategic goal, which has to be eradication of terrorism from Pakistani soil and make India terror-free. Because when you are terror-free, then you look at Viksit Bharat or 2047. Because
with that goal in mind, various operations have been carried out. I'll take that question to Amrit Pal now. Amrit, we've seen in 2016 how India mounted surgical strikes, and then We saw in 2019, after the Pulwama terror attack, the aerial strikes on Bawalkot, where a Jaish-e-Mohammed facility was operating. And now India has responded to the Pahalgam terror attack with Operation Sindoor. How do you see the three of them together? Are they different in any way to your mind, or is this a continuation of what India has been trying to do to eliminate terrorism from across the border to the extent it can practically?
Before I answer that question, Munmun, I'll just want to add a small, comment of mine to what the ambassador said. Ambassador Chakrabarti knows it very well. He's been a career diplomat that, statements given by the international community, public statements are for public consumption. These are, stands nation states take at the public fora. But behind closed doors, they talk, there is a straight talking that takes place. So the Indians would have told the international community very clearly that, look, we've factored in your concerns about the situation getting out of hand. We haven't gone on the escalatory ladder. We could have hit the Pakistani army if we really wanted to. We did not. We factored that in, and we've hit where it hurts. If they inflict pain on us, we will inflict pain back on them, and it's not only a punishment which we had to inflict on them, but it's also a deterrence for a future. It's a deterrent action because we had credible intelligence, as the Foreign Secretary today said in his press conference, that they had intelligence that the groups were planning attacks for the future as well. Coming to your question, what you asked, there are similarities between 16, 19 and now in the fact that you've gone and hit them where it hurts them the most. You've gone and hit them on their territory, but there are this operation is bigger in scale. This is multiple locations, as I said, in a very short span of 25 minutes, precision guided. You do not cross the LC or the IB, the international border, or the line of control. So you've learned your lessons. From 2019, your jet was down. Abhinandan had to eject on their territory. Then, you had to work all the phones, get him back. So you learnt your lessons. You did precision fighting. The last time around at Balakot, they said not even a crow is killed, etc., etc. So now there is enough evidence given by not just, in our press briefing, where you put out videos to take care of the propaganda machinery, because in today's warfare, the hybrid warfare that we fight, IW or information warfare is a very, very significant component of that war, the perception building. So all those lessons have been learnt, and the scale of the operation was bigger than what we did in 16 and 19. And of course, the manner, the precision manner, the measured response that came in, and the lessons learnt, as I said, from the last time around were factored in this time.
Absolutely. It's important that you talk of information warfare there, because vested interests at the same time are trying to spread fake news. So it is important that all misinformation is is seen for what it is really, and that only official channels are trusted. Well, coming back to you, Ambassador, I don't know if you heard Amrit Pal, but he was speaking of how behind the doors plain speak takes place. Even in front of the cameras, we've heard from Tulsi Gabbard, who said, go hunt them down. There's Qatar Emir, who said that India can go ahead and take whatever action it deems fit against Pakistan or Pakistan-based terrorists in this scenario after the Pahalgam terror attack. So would you say that in reality there is really no support from the international community, except for maybe a statement that keeps coming out from the OIC that parrots the Pakistan line?
You see, what happens is that Pakistan has always denied that it is behind all this. They say that no, these are all local people, etc., etc. Now that veneer of denial is no longer being believed by anybody. But as I said, that while they don't believe it, they know Pakistan is doing all these things. They also try to balance, in the sense that because Pakistan blames India also for some of the violence that takes place on its territory. So there is a kind of balancing act being done by most countries, but they know that Pakistan is the originator and the and the crucible of terrorism. So in private, they will tell you that yes, we understand. We are also deeply, hurt and angry. We convey condolences. We condemn this act. But when they go public in their statements, they tend to do a more balancing act. This is part of international politics, and because Pakistan, they don't want to really put Pakistan in such a spot that Pakistan, feels the heat so much, because they feel that Pakistan is a fairly fragile state. Now, for example, if the USA really wants us to put pressure on Pakistan and they are willing to take part in it, they can do a lot. They can, for example, tell the IMF not to give the loan that Pakistan is about to get, or not provide spares and ammunition, etc., to the F-16s and maintenance support.
Are these options that India should now look at leveraging, Ambassador, if I can take that point forward? Because this is not the end.
We will probably go to the IMF and lobby there as well, and also to ADB and various other places, so that to the financial task force, for example, so that this kind of a war, or call it war, or call it conflict, that we have to now, it's not just military, we have to use all non-military means, because when you look at Pakistan, you have to exercise your options looking at their vulnerabilities, and the economic vulnerability is at its height at the moment, and
Yes.
it would be foolish not to exploit that vulnerability and act on it.
Yes. Yes, Amrit, coming to you, since you are tracking the developments closely on ground, now tell us, what should one expect from Pakistan? People here are saying that Pakistan is a fragile state. We know there's always this fear that the nuclear weapons may fall into rogue hands. We know how Pakistan has developed its nuclear arsenal in the past. So if you could tell us that what should one expect from Pakistan now that India has successfully completed Operation Sindoor?
Pakistan is in a bind. As I said, that you've attacked terror targets there. So anybody, even the friends of Pakistan, they are giving bland statements. So for example, look at the Chinese statement. It is a very bland statement that it should be de-escalated, etc. Because they would have no moral grounds to support any kind of military reaction from Pakistan. On the LC, they're doing RT firing and all that. They've stepped that up. They stepped up on the gas. Earlier they were doing small arms firing. Now they're doing heavy mortar shelling and RT. But that's limited to the LC, and the Indian Army is capable of giving a response to that. Beyond that, they are really in a bind. They're using IW. They're doing whatever propaganda they are doing, which they should also. DGISPR takes so much money that organization is paid for that. In India also has a counter propaganda IW, so the Indians are also fact checking that and putting that out. Beyond that, they really don't know. The NSC met, the National Security Committee met under the leadership of Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif. The three chiefs, including General Munir, were there, and the ISPR, who's also the NSA, they met and they gave those statements saying that this is an action, we authorize the military to take appropriate action, and the DGISPR saying that we will respond at a time and place of our own choosing. This will not go unanswered. But they do not have much options really. At least momentarily. So my sense is that they will give this to keep up the morale and the false bravado, and give the statements that were coming in, that we have the nuclear warheads, we have the nuclear weapons. They know it very well. The world wouldn't let them press the nuclear button. You are right in one sense that apprehension remains, that if it's a fragile state, for it to descend into chaos is easier than, say, a more responsible nuclear state like India. India, the way it's demonstrated, no statements on nuclear, etc. came out. You gave a measured but a targeted response where you inflicted as much pain as you wanted to. You've caused much damage. Masood Azhar is saying 10 of my family chaps are killed, and the burial is at 4 p.m. today. So you've done precision targeting. You've done what you had to do. Their options now are really, really limited. Apart from firing at the LC, I don't think they have much option left, but you can't let your guard down. That's why a meeting on internal security has been called for all border states, and not just the western border. Even Bihar has been called there. Bihar DGP, Chief Secretary, Chief Minister have been called. UP have been called. You have the threat from Nepal. They could use their elements, their assets in Nepal. West Bengal has been called because they could use their assets in Bangladesh. So you have to keep the guard up. You can't, as a soldier would tell you, you can't let your guard down, especially when the enemy is wounded.
Right. Very quickly towards the end, how does the world community see India after such resolute action for the third time in so many years? Because Israel is seen by the international community as one country that you cannot mess with, and it showed after the October 7 attack by Hamas there. And also, what are the options that still remain on the table?
I think the show of strength, of legitimate strength to counter terror, will get nothing but respect. So if you ask me what the international community will interpret this, I think whatever they say, in the respect for India goes higher. I do not want to compare it with the Israel situation because there's a moral dimension, people, etc. Here, you would not touch the civilian population. So this is a very unique case. So you are on a moral high ground, and you have demonstrated boldness, you have demonstrated legitimate, justified force. It will get you nothing but respect from the international community.
Okay, we'll leave it at that, and many options perhaps on the table for many more months and years ahead if Pakistan still doesn't learn its lessons. We'll leave it at that. Amrit Pal Singh, thank you for joining us, Ambassador Chakrabarti, as well as Mr. Aneja. Thank you so much for joining sharing your point of view with us. Let's move on now. On Operation Sindoor, Indian Navy Lieutenant Vinay Narwal's father, Rajesh Narwal, has this to say, that the government of India has taken the right step and they will always remember this strike. Indian Navy Lieutenant Vinay Narwal was killed in the deadly Pahalgam terror attack on the 22nd of April.
आज भारत सरकार ने वो काम करके दिखाया है। हाँ, जिन घरों से जिनके लाल चले गए उनका जीवन तो वापस नहीं आ सकता, परंतु ऐसा कुछ हो कि इस तरह की कायराना हरकतें और बुज़दिली हरकतें करने की कोई साहस ना करे। उनको एक संदेश मिल चुका है मेरी सरकार की तरफ से, हमारी सरकार की तरफ से, कि यदि कभी उंगली भी उठाई तो उसका जवाब कैसा होगा, उनको समझ लेना चाहिए।
So the families of the victims of the Pahalgam terror attack are feeling that justice has finally been served. Relatives of victims of the Pahalgam attack continue to applaud India's strike on Pakistan. Family of Shubham Dwivedi, who was killed in the terrorist attack in Pahalgam, has expressed gratitude to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. They said the grief of losing Shubham is still fresh for them, and in such a situation, the retaliatory action of the Indian Army has brought relief to their hearts.
आज मैं रात 2 बजे से लगातार देख रहा हूं और मैं सलाम करता हूं अपने देश की सेना को और धन्यवाद अर्पित करता हूं अपने देश के माननीय प्रधानमंत्री जी को, जिन्होंने देश की 140 करोड़ जनता के मन की बात को समझा, दिल के दर्द को समझा, उसके दर्द को समझा, उसके गुस्सा को समझा, और जिस तरह हमारी सशक्त सेनाओं ने अदम्य साहस और शौर्य के साथ पाकिस्तान में पल रहे आतंकवाद का विनाश करने का काम किया है, उसके लिए मैं सलाम करता हूं, मैं धन्यवाद अर्पित करता हूं हमारे देश की सरकार को। हमारा परिवार जो इतने दिन से गम में था, आज हमारे परिवार ने रात के 2 बजे से कुछ हल्कापन महसूस किया है। जो दिल में हमारे दर्द था, उस दर्द में हमारे मलहम लगा है।
And that's all in this edition of DD India News Hour, but do share your thoughts with us on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world in the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. You can scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. This is Murmu from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour. Namaskar.